everyone, my name is Christiana and today I'm here with Megan and we're going to be talking all about her life, mental health, and so much more. And I firstly want to say that I started Teenage Mental Love because I realized just how important mental health was. And I realized that, especially during this time, during the pandemic, when everyone is by themselves, no one is really, not many people are going to school right now. And, a lot of people are lonely or they're dealing with their mental health problems by themselves. And I just want them to know that, you're not alone. You're loved and you're cared for. So I'm so happy to be here with Megan today, and we're going to jump right into this interview. And I really hope you guys enjoy it, and I will link all of her social media down below. So, yes. So, firstly, I wanted to ask you, how are you doing right now mentally?
I'm honestly doing pretty good. I definitely think there's a lot of chaos in the world, and during the beginning of COVID, mental health was not so great at the time, but I currently am pretty good.
Yeah, of course. That's really wonderful how you're doing better during this time. And I wanted to say, when COVID first hit, and people weren't allowed to see family members, hang out with their friends, school was being canceled. I wanted to ask you how that affected you, and how you got better and was stronger through it.
Yeah, it definitely affected me super intensely, and I think it's because I'm genuinely I generally am a very extroverted person. So like I kind of get energy and like happiness and joy from being around people a lot. And that was like the opposite of what you could do during COVID. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I also struggle with a lot of like anxiety issues, and being alone definitely increases that. So, it was a very scary experience, and I didn't know how long I'd have to deal with it and how I would feel. But over time, I definitely started to create a better relationship with my family since I was around them so much. And they definitely helped me pull myself out of that. I also started visiting a therapist through like Zoom calls, kind of how we're doing right now. And that helps me too.
Of course, and that's wonderful. And I feel like there's sometimes such a stigma behind going to a therapist, and I'm happy that it's like starting to go away a little bit more. But I feel like there is still that like you're going to a therapist because of a certain reason, and I love that you're saying that you're going to a therapist and so open about it, because that's something that is so wonderful, truly. Yeah. And I wanted to say, growing up, did you ever feel like mental health tremendously impacted you, or was there ever a certain time in your life where you realized like, wow, mental health is really impacting my life?
Definitely. I think for me, it all kind of hit during middle school. And I feel like that is a common trait in a lot of people, because I feel like middle school kind of starts the drama and, feeling like you have to be accepted by everybody and subjecting yourself to societal norms just to fit in, things like that. And definitely during that time, because of those things, my anxiety plummeted. I was having a lot of drama trying to, figure out myself and also figure out who I wanted to be a part of my life. So that was not good, but it definitely taught me a lot about myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, I completely understand. And also, just like you said, I feel like in middle school too, a lot of people are starting to get social media, or they kind of already had it from the ending of elementary school, which is like so crazy to believe that like elementary school kids have social media. And that's like really true. I feel like, going on social media every single day and scrolling endlessly through all of these people posting the perfect part of their lives, and then we compare it to our everyday life, and I'm like, wow, I don't look like them. I don't have what they have. And I completely understand what you mean.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And also, Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was also going to say, especially with friends and, drama and, that popularity contest, or however people put it, in middle school. And it almost goes away in high school, but it's still a thing for sure. And I wanted to ask you, from your transition from middle to high school, how that, impacted you. Was it like really overwhelming for you, or was it a positive change?
Honestly, I think for me, at first it was really scary because eighth grade, I sort of had this epiphany where I was like, you know what? The people that I'm surrounding myself with are not people that reflect who I am as a person and who I want. because they just weren't simply positive impacts in my life. And so then that caused a lot of problems because I felt like I was going into high school with no friends. And that's like, I feel like that can be the scariest thing about going into high school because, especially like me, I grew up in this small town, so everything is super cliquey.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of opportunities for you to really go out and meet new people.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go into this high school and not have any friends and then restart all over again. So that was really terrifying, but it definitely turned out to be a positive change for me.
Wow, that's amazing too, and that's really, really cool, like how you have it in 8th grade, because I know at that time we're only around 13, 14, so that's really, really awesome. And
Yeah.
yes, and also, throughout like high school and also middle school, were there any outlets or hobbies that you did that, really helped you when you're going through a hard time? I know some people do dance, art, theater, so many different things, and I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, so probably between like 6th grade until freshman year, I did like a multitude of sports. So I did like track, and I did dance and cheer, and I was also in drama club and things like that. So that allowed me to express myself in ways that I didn't necessarily know how to.
Yes.
In other aspects of my life. So that was really great. And I think also anything that can help you release some like stress and dopamine is always good to do in your life, especially during those times. So I'd say that. And also I'm a huge writer. Like I'm super into writing, and that's how I let out my emotions and express myself. So I like to do that too.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know writing can be so comforting, especially like I saw, people doing dream journals and, just journaling every single day. And that is amazing and wonderful, or poems or anything that people do. And also, I wanted to ask you about, it kind of relates to outlets and hobbies, but also, are you passionate about anything like that ever helps you, or like ever helps you in life when you're going through a hard time? Because like I know some people are passionate in theater, and when they're in that place or when they're performing theater, it almost is like they're in an out of body experience and they feel surreal.
Yeah.
Yes, and I want to ask you, do you have any passions like that you're going to continue for the rest of your life?
Yeah, definitely. I'm super big on like knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
So since I was saying earlier that one of the biggest things I do is write, I definitely like to stay in touch with like social issues and political issues. And I have this, I don't know if other people know this, but there's this like app called Medium where people have the opportunity to like publish their writing. So I'll publish writing on like political or social topics, or on TikTok I'll do videos as well talking about that. And I don't know exactly what I want to do in the future, but I know whenever I do have problems internally, like the best way that I exert those emotions is by helping other people. And I feel like educating others on topics that should be more normalized is like the best thing to do for me.
Of course, and I love that, and that kind of reminds me of Wattpad, because I know like you can write on there, but like that's more like for fictional stories and such. But that is amazing that you're taking the political route, or educational, and I love that so much. And also, when you create your writing or your art, do you ever have like a time where like you're in a block, or you're in a position where you can't express yourself, or you feel that everything in your life is so overwhelming that it makes it hard to write, or does that help you?
Definitely a little bit of both, but more of the overwhelming aspect. I feel like sometimes I just get so bombarded with all of these emotions, or there's a lot of like external sources that are causing me stress, or just feelings of being overwhelmed. And when that does happen, it becomes very hard for me to try to focus all my attention onto something else like writing. In terms of like what I'm passionate about, I think I'll always write when I feel down, just because that's like an expression of my emotion. But in terms of like the passionate writing I was talking about, like political or social issues, or focusing on those things, it becomes so much more difficult.
Wow.
And that in itself is overwhelming, because then I also feel like I'm disappointing myself by not doing those things.
I completely understand, and also I find that so fascinating. And I wanted to ask you, do you ever feel, I don't know, like almost nervous, or like what the public will think about your political view or what you write? Or do you feel like nervous about what people will say about you?
Definitely. Yeah, I it can be very scary to put yourself out there, and allow yourself to just be judged by so many people.
Yeah.
And that can be terrifying, but I don't let myself get consumed by it because I think everybody should have the ability to express the way that they feel about things, and ultimately, you're always going to get hate, but that never stopped nobody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just try to keep pushing and not be so concerned about what the public has to say about me.
Of course. I love that too. Also, I was even going to ask you, how do you like push past those comments? But what you said is amazing. And also, when you're going through something and you post something or you receive, I don't know if you've ever received like hate comments, which is so unnecessary. But a lot of people do. And I want to ask you, how do you like ignore those, and how do you know that you have to keep going or keep pushing and be stronger?
Yeah. I think sometimes, at least when it comes to like political and social issues, and the things that I do talk about in my writing, I feel like ultimately, if someone does comment a hate comment, I'm like, okay, well, this is someone that's not willing to, sort of be open minded to other people's opinions. And if that's the way they are, I'm not going to like exert my energy trying to please them or trying to, you know, um, say something mean back or, be on top of that. It's just, I think that in itself takes more energy than just being like, you know what, they're going to do their thing, but I don't want to be a part of that negativity. So I think that's just the way that I look at it.
Oh wow, that's amazing! I love that so much, and tying it in with with your passion and writing and how you're passionate about it. This is like a question that I love to ask because, like, of course, it can be undefined or you don't know. But I wanted to ask you, where do you see yourself in like 10 years, or how do you see yourself?
Wow, yeah, big question because I always find myself struggling between like, oh my gosh, I have like a year till I'm supposed to go to college. What am I supposed to do with my life? But in terms of not necessarily like exactly what I will be doing, but I would like to be either running my own business or in a way being my own boss and like not having to work your typical 9 to 5. Like I just want to be content with myself and my happiness, and be happy with whatever it is I'm doing, no matter how much money I'm making. And that's all I have planned for the next 10 years.
I completely understand. Yeah, and wow, that's wonderful. And I feel like so many kids, especially in our generation, because I'm a senior right now in high school, and I believe you are too. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I feel like so many of us, like, no one really wants to work the 9 to 5 every single day for the rest of your life, and that is so wonderful and amazing to pursue something that you can be your own boss, and I love that so
Yeah.
much. Yeah. Yes, and I wanted to go a little bit more into social media, and I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion on it? Do you feel like it has its toxic aspects, but it also has like a positive aspect towards it as well?
I definitely agree with that statement. I think social media can bring people together, and I think social media has allowed a lot of people to find ways to express themselves that aren't the generic things that like maybe school might teach you. I think it's allowed people to pursue careers that they thought they could never do before, or create new friends, or be able to be surrounded by an environment of people who also support them. But it definitely has its toxic aspects. And I think that's more like the hate side of things. And because people are allowed to say whatever they want, they will. And I think that can be negative. I also think, depending on what your perspective is on yourself, social media can be toxic, because if you don't have a good perspective about yourself and your body and how you view your worth as a person, scrolling through social media can also cause more of those feelings to emerge, and make you feel like, wow, I don't look like that, so I must be worth less than this human being. But that's just not the case. So I feel like everything's mostly perspective. And I think I've seen bigger creators now trying to make an effort to be like, hey, you should love yourself the way that you are, and my life isn't perfect, so you shouldn't feel that yours has to be too. And I think that's great.
And I completely agree with you. I absolutely love that. And I feel like you're right. Like a lot of bigger creators are doing that. And I feel like that's so wonderful because almost like it was like a shift because I realized that wasn't there before, especially like maybe like 5, 6 years ago. I feel like that really wasn't as much on social media. Like you would get the memes and the hateful comments, and anyone, just like you said, anyone can say anything. It's literally like for every single person. And
Yeah.
I absolutely love that so many more people are talking about mental health, talking about not comparing yourself to others, and I love that. And I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion on you know people, trying to find a way to compare themselves to others on social media? And do you have any advice for anyone who is comparing themselves with someone that they see?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest things that I've always felt is like, um, if norms on what we know are to be beauty, like if currently beauty standards are what they are, but they're also always changing, then why feel the need to adapt to them? Because I remember my mom always tells me when she was growing up, like what was known as beautiful then is definitely like switched roles now. Like, so she got a lot of hate for that when she was younger, and now people our age are like, oh, I wish I had that body. And it's like, okay, well, if they're always changing, then it's your job as a human being to be like, hey, like I don't have to subject myself to that, and I don't have to view myself as less simply because other people are trying to determine whether I'm pretty enough.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it's so disappointing to see so many people just genuinely feeling like they're not good enough, or they're not pretty enough, or they're not skinny enough to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Because we were all made differently for a reason. And I think too, it's important for us to all appreciate the different aspects of every human being and what makes them unique and what makes them the way that they are.
Of course, yes. I completely agree, and you're again so right. That everything you said was amazing because that's so true. I feel like even it's like almost like it's normalized too because you can scroll through the comments of someone who has a lot of followers on a platform, and they're in on vacation, and they're in this wonderful hotel swimming on a boat, behind, and then the water behind them, and in the comments you'll see people comparing themselves, comparing their lives, their bodies, what they have, and that is so true. And I love what you said. And I wanted to go into like family and friends, and I want to ask you, do you have any special person in your life, or like friends who are always there for you, who help you whenever you're going through a hard time?
Definitely. I have a few. Especially my boyfriend for the last year has been super helpful in supporting me and building myself up as a person.
Yeah.
But I also have a lot of credit to give to my family and my parents for always being there for me and for always reminding me that it's okay to be who I am, and it's also okay to be sad. And that they're just super supportive. So I love that. But mainly my family, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that too, and that's so wonderful to have a supportive, family, especially while growing up. And I wanted to say, do you feel like your environment can really impact how you are as a person? Like growing up, what your family speaks about at home, and I want to ask you, do you feel like your environment really helped to shape you into who you are today?
Definitely. I think my environment definitely did. I feel like um, I would argue that your environment almost can completely shape the person that you are and are going to become. Only because I feel like a lot of people may experience growing up in toxic environments and either sort of internalize that anger and push that upon other people, or they're like, oh, wait, I don't want to be anything like that. And I feel like growing up, my parents were just always so supportive and so kind. And I think that definitely helped me be that same person to other people. So, yeah.
Of course, and I also wanted to say something about your family being supportive, like you said, and I feel like also an environment like school, or like who you hang out with, just like you said about middle school. Like in eighth grade, you had your epiphany, and you're like, wow, I don't. These people are not the people who I really want to surround myself with, and that is so true. And it's almost like it deals with peer pressure. It deals with growing up, life, and I completely agree with what you said. And I wanted to say, during this time, especially with how hard it is and, not being in school, how are you coping with, not being around people? Just like you said, you're an extroverted person, especially with the school stress and senior year and everything. And how are you coping with that?
I think over, having to be quarantined in COVID for so long, it definitely taught me a lot about myself, and it taught me that I was more comfortable being alone with myself than I thought I actually was. Like, I was always so fearful, and I had a lot of experiences with being like so codependent with other friends because I felt like I needed someone to be there to constantly reassure me or to make me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, I just, I don't know, I just felt like, at the end of the day, the only person I have is myself, and I need to start enjoying the time that I spend with myself. So now I feel like it's become a lot more easy to be independent and to enjoy this time alone. I also think it's important that for people who are extroverted, they should be on the phone with their friends, like FaceTiming friends, FaceTiming family. Like, that is the best we can do right now. And I think if that is the type of person you are, that's exactly what you should be doing.
Definitely, and I absolutely agree. And I wanted to lastly ask you, do you have any advice for anyone who's going through a hard time? Because I asked about advice, regarding mental health and such, but especially during this time, or being overwhelmed, or even if they're writing something and they're scared of what people will think of them. Do you have any advice for them, especially during this time?
Honestly, I feel like people are always going to judge, and people are always going to critique you for everything that you do just because they can. And maybe for some people that makes them feel better about themselves. But I feel like if the reason you're holding back, if you're holding yourself back from doing something that you love is because you're consumed by what other people may think of you, the only person that you're shortchanging is yourself. Like, at the end of the day, the only person that you're going to disappoint is yourself, because I feel like ultimately you should always be doing what you love. And those people are never going to go away. Life isn't going to get easier. So I feel like now is the best time for people to really indulge in what they love and indulge in being able to do things while they don't have the stress that, the rest of your life will bring.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love that, and that is so true. I just want to add on to what you said, because that was wonderful. Just like you said, also, you're not doing everything that you used to do, which can be a benefit, but it's also a drawback. I completely understand. But, like I remember every single day, waking up, going to school. Some of us have, part-time jobs, doing so many different things, and now you have this time to be a little bit more relaxed, because you don't always have to go or drive or do something. But it can be a huge drawback, of course. But I love what you said, and your advice was wonderful. And I want to say thank you again so much for this amazing opportunity. And for everyone who's watching, I hope you know that you're not alone. And social media can be such a toxic place sometimes, but to know that you're always loved, you're always cared for, and there will always be someone who's there for you. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I will link all of Meagan's social media down below, her Instagram, TikTok, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and definitely have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.